Hi, everyone. Welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika, a show focused on highlighting amazing women who are stepping out of the box, saying screw the expectations of society, and basically living the life that they want to live, the life they were designed for. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Sharee James. Sharee is a licensed, I keep saying this word wrong, naturopath and a yoga and mindfulness meditation instructor with a special interest in holistic approaches to anxiety and depression. She works with clients on a one-on-one basis and blogs regularly at, no, there's another word I'm going to say wrong, Sharee. Ashima.
Correct.
Yes.
Well done.
Ashima Living. And she's been featured in a number of different sites, wellness expert sites, Mind, Body, Green, Personal Growth, Yoga Life, Tiny Booty, which I cannot talk today. What is going on? It must be late. I didn't have any coffee. Tiny Buddha and Positively Positive. Whew, tongue twister.
Yeah.
Sharee, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I mean, it's 6:30 where I am. I should be okay. You are at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm the one that's struggling.
No, I'm going to flub my words too, I promise.
Okay. Good, I'm not alone.
Not at all.
Well, guys, today's show is going to be interesting. I'm always trying to bring you interesting topics and different takes. And today we have Sharee on board because I know we talk a lot to people who have done career transitions and making different changes in their life. But one thing we really haven't touched on is that process of trying to find your purpose in your life can be stressful. And it can result in all types of emotions and things like anxiety and depression. So I wanted to make sure we had Sharee on here to kind of touch on this from a different perspective. So Sharee, tell us, how did you find this sort of space of being in the naturopathic world of healthcare?
Yeah, so unusually, I was actually very young. Most people, at least when I went through, who study naturopathy, it was their second or third careers, speaking about career change. And
Right.
a lot of the women, it was mainly women studying, and a lot of them were in their 40s or older. But from a young age, I think I first heard about naturopathy from my mother, who she actually had a friend who was diagnosed with terminal cancer and was given actually only a few months to live, with nothing else from the orthodox medicine that could really be done. And she actually sought out a naturopath and did a fasting regimen and actually beat her cancer. So I'm not making any claims about, fasting or naturopathy and cancer, but for this particular woman, she did actually cure her cancer or overcome cancer. And I just remember I was about 11 at the time, being really fascinated and thinking, oh, so maybe there is actually other things, out there for health that besides just, the orthodox medical model. And then as I got older, as a teenager, I started becoming really fascinated by herbal medicine and just thought it was really amazing that plants have these different properties and, natural phytochemicals that can treat different illnesses. And I got really into like herb gardening. That was my hobby.
Okay.
So a bit of a weird teenager, just collecting herbs and backyard, getting fuller and fuller of herbal medicine. And then, went straight into studying after high school.
Okay. Now you brought up, herbal medicine, and we're talking about naturopathic medicine.
Yeah.
How do they differ? Are they the same? Is it overlap?
Good question. Yeah. So naturopathy is really, I guess, an umbrella term of different natural modalities that can be used to support someone's health and wellness. And different naturopaths might study a few different things, but in general, herbal medicine and clinical nutrition are usually the two big modalities that naturopaths work with. But I, for example, also studied bodywork, massage, reflexology, aromatherapy, homeopathy, behavioral therapies, a whole range of subjects, basically.
Gotcha. Okay. And you are currently in Australia, and just curious, because I know over here in the States, the idea of homeopathy and herbal medicine and naturopathy is still kind of like fringe per se. It's becoming more accepted, but it's still not truly, truly accepted, I don't think. How is it over there in Australia? Is it the same way?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Although having said that, and having lived in other countries, I think Australia is more open than some other places. Like, for example, every pharmacy has got, a big natural health section. Most pharmacies now will have a naturopath in store
Really?
to help you. Yeah. And then there's naturopathic clinics. It's unfortunately, I would like to see more integration between like the orthodox medical community and naturopaths, more cross referrals and working with each other, which that is still not there yet. I mean, some practitioners do that, but I think there's a long way to go there.
Right.
But yeah, it's on the side, but at the same time, a huge number of people are really interested in it.
Okay. It's funny you say about the pharmacy because I'm a pharmacist by training.
Oh,
And so,
really?
yeah, so I've worked in like retail pharmacies and things like
Yeah.
that, and we never have a naturopath.
Oh, really?
No,
Okay.
no. So it's
Right.
interesting that at least that meshing is happening over there. It hasn't happened
Yeah.
here yet.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So you started off pretty young and got into this space. So I guess from your perspective, when we're talking about women that are, in this space of career transition and the amount of stress and anxiety that comes along with it, what are your thoughts about, how do we handle that? So many times we're given pills to like fix the symptom, but we don't really get to the true underlying things. So what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said we don't get to the underlying
Mhm.
root cause or causes of anxiety and depression. So the first thing I'll say is, you mentioned career transition for people that are highly sensitive, because I do think there is a personality type that is more prone to anxiety in particular. Any kind of transition can very much trigger anxiety.
Mhm.
Just that, they're not knowing, they're not having control, the uncertainty about what's going to happen or the future. From a mental level, that is enough to trigger anxiety for many people, even if it's a positive, happy change.
Mm.
But change in particular is very anxiety provoking to highly sensitive people. Um, Having said that, with anxiety and depression, I really take a holistic view in that there are both physical and mental factors going on. And these can vary from person to person. So it's really important to take an individualistic approach,
Mhm.
and to really dig deep and uncover what those factors are. So, for example, with a naturopath, the initial consultation is at least an hour long, where you're digging really into the full history and you're asking about all different body systems, digestion, diet, you know sleep, everything, to get a really full picture. Because for some people, anxiety can be linked to food they're eating, food intolerances, nutrient deficiencies, adrenal dysregulation, thyroid imbalance. There's a whole gut dysfunction is a huge one. So that's some of the physical factors. And then of course we have mental factors like, too much lifestyle stress, or someone that's a ruminator or a worrier that has these mental habits of catastrophizing. So that's why I like to bring in the mindfulness as well.
Mhm.
Um, and just come at it from both angles, which I find really, really helpful for most people.
Mm. Wow. An hour.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
plus a long intake form before that.
I'm just thinking about just, general annual physicals, here, and it's like
Oh yeah,
10
10
minutes and
minutes.
you're out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think people would appreciate that time of you just, you know, focusing on them because we don't get that often
Yeah,
in our
absolutely. And just, uncovering all the all the interrelations between what's going on. Like, oh yeah, actually I have this rash, which is also to do with my anxiety, or actually it started at this time and that was when I went through this change in my life. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, because everyone is a unique puzzle with their symptoms. And that's why I really don't think the one size fits all approach helps helps a lot of people, particularly in mental health. I mean, the research shows this. We have, anxiety and depression is becoming, I think it's the second leading cause of disability now, according to the World Health Organization, and it's soon going to become the first. So the model that we have just isn't really working.
Right. Do you find that people are going to traditional medicine first, and then when they can't get an answer, they come to naturopath? Or do you find that the opposite is
Yeah. I mean, it depends. In general, with naturopathy in general, not just anxiety and depression, we often get a lot of complex cases because we are the last resort sometimes. However, particularly with anxiety and depression, there are people that are concerned about side effects with medication or addiction. And so, they might know, I'm definitely not going down that path. I want something natural. So, yeah, both really.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I don't know if you know this answer, it just kind of popped into my head as I'm sitting here thinking about it. When we're thinking about anxiety and depression, there's a lot, at least in the US, a lot of over the counter, like gummy vitamins and different things that are for anxiety and depression. Are those even worth our time to look into, from your perspective?
Um, Look, there are definitely some valuable over-the-counter, herbal relaxants and things like that, which can help some people. Um, but just taking a relaxant, whether it's a herbal medicine or a benzodiazepine, if someone has got, it's still not really addressing those underlying causes. So it's probably just going to be a band-aid treatment. And
Right.
it is really important to dig deeper for people, particularly if it's chronic anxiety or depression, and if people really want to truly overcome it.
Right. Now, you mentioned sort of the food interaction, right, with anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Um, how I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I can see somebody in the office, like, what do you mean my strawberries is causing me anxiety? Like that doesn't work. Do you
Yeah.
get that at all?
Oh, totally. I totally.
Okay.
It can sound crazy on the surface, but when you understand, so think of anxiety like this. Um, Basically, your body is in the fight or flight mode, right? So you're releasing more stress hormones. The body or the mind is perceiving itself in danger. Your cortisol is going up, your adrenaline. And like I said before, there can be mental and physical triggers for this. So if someone is really worrying and ruminating, that can spark your cortisol and stress hormones. But if the body feels that it's in stress, that can also spark cortisol. So for example, if you are someone that skips meals too much and the body and your blood sugar is all over the place, the body perceives that as a stressful event. It perceives itself as being in danger, and it will release those stress hormones too. For some people, they may not feel anything, but for a sensitive person or a person with other factors on top, that can be enough to trigger anxiety. Things like coffee, we know that for some people, caffeine can trigger anxiety. Alcohol, sugar is a big one, again, because it just fluctuates the blood sugar levels too much. And then more and more research now with anxiety and particularly depression is looking at how there's actually an inflammatory component to it. So when there's more inflammation in the body, the brain is sitting there in this inflammatory soup. So that means the brain is also inflamed. And so a diet that's really inflammatory, high in processed oils, omega-6 oils, high in sugar, maybe foods that you're intolerant to. All of this is just kind of stoking these flames of inflammation. And that is enough to produce mental health symptoms in some people too.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole inflammatory system seems to be getting a lot more research now across the board in all types of diseases, but especially in general. I don't think people totally get that yet. At least the lay population doesn't get that yet.
Yeah, correct. And
Yeah.
then there's the gut as well. I mean, a lot of people are surprised to learn that, the majority of some of our, I guess, most famous brain chemicals like serotonin, for example, is made in the gut. And that is dependent on, first of all, having the right amino acids in the diet. And then also having the right beneficial bacteria in the gut to process those amino acids and convert them into neurotransmitters. So that's another factor as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like for my own personal question, because you talked about the processed oils.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, like, which oils are the best? Because we hear
Yeah,
all
okay.
the time, like, olive oil is
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah, yeah.
what do we need?
So there's a bit of a bit of confusion out there, because there was a phase when, you know, oils like fats like butter and lard and animal fats were demonized and said to cause heart disease, that kind of thing, and the vegetable oils were kind of the golden child of oils. But most of that research has been completely debunked now. Um, Oils that are highly refined and processed, like the seed oils, they oxidize really, really quickly. So things like canola oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, those
Grapeseed.
cheap, those cheap vegetable oils, they oxidize really rapidly. So that means when these fats actually form the structure of our cells, so that means your cells will then oxidize rapidly as well, which is why antioxidants are so important. Whereas fats that are stable, coconut oil, animal fat, lard, even like avocados and olive oil are all really, really healthy fats, because they don't oxidize. So they're providing a very, very solid structure to our cell walls, basically.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Because it's always something is changing and I can't keep up.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps. So now with anxiety, we were talking sort of about like the different things that can lead to anxiety and just the different factors. So what can we what can we do? Like if you're in that your Zoom call, it's like your 10th Zoom call of the day and you are just done and you are in this moment of anxiety, how can we address that without, lithium and benzos and, SSRIs and SNRIs, all that kind of stuff? Like what can we
Yeah.
do for ourselves to help ourselves?
I mean, in the moment, obviously prevention is always better than cure. So if you're someone that's prone to anxiety, um, it really is the daily consistent things that you do to keep your nervous system healthy and balanced and calm. So first of all, that's more important than just trying to deal with say a panic attack or a moment of anxiety,
Mhm.
if it's something that you are prone to fairly regularly. But on the spot, I think the biggest thing first of all is not adding anxiety to anxiety. So because anxiety is such an unpleasant sensation,
Mhm.
particularly if it's, something like a full-blown anxiety attack and it's frightening in and of itself, we add fear on top of the fear. So we start to think, oh my God, what's happening? Am I going to have a heart attack? I just want this to stop. It feels so awful. And adding that on top just fuels the anxiety. So it's really important just to have that mindset shift and realize, okay, this is, it's not a pleasant sensation. But it's not going to kill me. It's also not going to last. Like everything in life, it arises and it passes away. I'm okay now and I'm going to be okay. So just having that kind of positive attitude, not even positive, but I mean, it's a realistic attitude. It's the truth, but having that ability to just detach a little bit and just bring down that kind of mental catastrophizing that often happens on top of anxiety is really, really important. And then just tuning into whatever you think you need, whether it's some people need to move, need to walk, need to kind of run or get it out of their system. Other people, it might be just smelling essential oils or having a cup of relaxing herbal tea or
Mhm.
talking to a friend. It really depends in the moment on the person. But the biggest thing I would say is, not adding anxiety to the anxiety.
Right. And you made me think of two things. When you said preparation or prevention over, dealing with something in the spur of the moment. And one thing that helps me is kind of knowing what your triggers are, in terms of
Absolutely.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I used to get very anxious in my corporate life in certain scenarios and kind of preparing yourself mentally before I go into this corporate event.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. The other thing, I don't know of any, I was looking on my desk, I usually have it. I have a worry stone. And I
Oh
don't
yeah.
you
Yeah.
see those? Yeah. So
Yeah.
for people that I can't find it right now, sorry guys, I would show it to you. But for people that don't know what a worry stone is, it's simply like, I don't even know if mine's quartz or what it is, but it has like a little groove in there. It's kind of like a fidget spinner mentality almost,
Yeah.
where you
Yep.
can just get rid of your negative or stressful energy in that stone. So,
Yeah, and anything, because that's you're physically feeling the stone. Anything
mhm,
that gets you out of your head and into your body or senses can really help. So tuning into the sensations of playing with your fidget stone,
mhm,
um, tuning into the sounds around you, just taking a moment to feel your breath. Anything that gets you out of the head and into the body is really, really great for anxiety.
right, right. Now, so let me go back for a second because we're talking about anxiety and depression. But when you started, you said you got into naturopath, sort of, or naturopathic
Naturopathy.
medicine. I can't
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
naturopathic when I want to. Naturopathic medicine from your mother's friend, right? That had
Hmm.
cancer. So how did you
Yeah.
decide that you wanted to sort of focus on the
Good
anxiety
question.
of it?
Well, first of all, I went through a period of extreme anxiety myself,
Hmm.
to the point where I actually had to go to the emergency room one time because my panic attacks were so bad. Remember one time I was literally vomiting all day for about
Oh no.
12 to 14 hours. So I had this extreme anxiety that was a result of burnout. I could see some of the triggers that led me there.
Mm.
And once I experienced it for myself, like I had anxiety patients before and of course felt compassion for them, but until I experienced it myself and realized like how awful it really can be, especially when it's extreme, um, and that there is such good natural options for people. I just kind of thought that's where I want to go. And because I was already interested in yoga and mindfulness and meditation, which has that, I guess a crossover that's really, really effective for anxiety as well, I
Mhm.
just thought it was kind of the perfect sweet spot of something I'm passionate about, something I do have relevant skills in, and yeah, something that I can really relate to as well.
Gotcha. It's awesome when your interest and your passion and everything kind of like lines up. It makes life
Yeah.
so much easier and just so much fun to sort of
Yeah.
experience. And you having that experience, I'm sure is just makes you even more valuable to your patients and your clients, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I had to bring that back because I was like, wait a minute. Guess we're not
Yeah.
talking about cancer here.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you start off in, naturopathy, you're doing everything. You're doing skin rashes and colds and, irritable bowel syndrome. You're doing everything. And the thing is, what I love about mental health is you still do get to do those things because it is all interrelated.
Mhm.
Someone's anxiety is connected to their irritable bowel syndrome, or you're still looking at thyroid and hormones and all of those other factors as well. It's just the anxiety is that presenting symptom.
Right, right. So most of your patients that have anxiety, I'm assuming, most of your clients have anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
Um, do you deal with both men and women, or is your clientele just women?
I guess I market myself to women specifically, mainly because, first of all, anxiety and depression is a lot more prevalent in women. Um, and secondly, women in general do tend to be more interested in holistic avenues. But I mean, I am happy to help anyone, and I have had male clients as well.
I wonder why there's more anxiety in women and why they are more open to alternative types of medicine. That's interesting. I'm sure the hormones
Yeah,
play a role in terms of some of the
definitely. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
but the acceptance or desire to look at other options, that's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah, very female dominated in terms
Okay.
of interest.
Okay. Do you find that a lot of your clients, the anxiety comes from a work environment, or how does that sort of play a role?
Um, Actually, no, most of mine, I mean, definitely lifestyle stress, work stress can add to the mix, but a lot of my patients are quite um, chronic. Some
Mm,
of them have had trauma. Again, it's a big mix of factors. Some of them may have had trauma when they were younger. Some of them it is just their personality. That's how their stress manifests.
mhm,
And others, it is as simple. I remember I had one patient who she'd been really kind of like this happy-go-lucky woman. She was a vet, and then out of the blue, she just had this really, really low mood, and she was like, "This just isn't me, and there's no stress in my life." And we tested like the level of bad bacteria in her gut, and she was off the charts. And once we fixed that, within about 2 weeks, her depression lifted. So for some people, it's something as simple as that. So it really depends, yeah.
You tested the level of bacteria in her gut. Okay.
Yeah, well, like, it's called dysbiosis. So, yeah, it's like the byproducts that these harmful bacteria produce. It's actually a urine test, and
Okay.
hers was, yeah, really, really bad. Um, and yeah, once we cleaned that up, her mood instantly improved.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I can imagine people when they have, various symptoms of mental health, a lot of times either they go undiagnosed or they go, through so many different changes of physicians, medications, trying to fix it, which becomes
yeah,
more frustrating. And it's like a
yeah,
cycle that they kind of enter. So to
definitely.
have that happen immediately, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's definitely not everyone, but
Right.
yeah, that particular case, all it was gut,
Yeah.
and yeah, it resolved really quickly.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. I want to switch gears a little bit because this has been a topic that has been coming up with a lot of women that I've talked to, clients, and I even had a session talking about the idea of overwhelm in the lives of women, and
Mm.
especially right now with everything that's going on in 2020.
Oh yes.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of overwhelm.
Yeah.
How does that how do we address that? Does that kind of fall into the same realm of being able to be addressed from a naturopathic perspective when we look at overwhelm or burnout, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Because naturopathy encompasses a lot of what we call lifestyle and behavior change. So, looking at our daily habits and our stress levels and how much we have on our plate, and doing as much as we can to balance that. So, I mean, for a lot of people, I think, especially in the way our society is, there just is too much on our plates.
Mhm.
We have to work. It's harder and harder with childcare. We're having to juggle so many things,
Yes.
um, and especially this year with all of the stress of what's happening, around the world, all of it adds up. Um, so understanding that minimizing and simplifying what you can, if that's possible, is obviously really good. I mean, for some women especially have this mentality of wanting to be superwoman and wanting to do absolutely everything,
Mhm.
without being able to just let some things go, and unfortunately put themselves, I know this sounds cliche, but it's really true, but honestly putting themselves last.
Yeah.
um, and then they wonder why at some point they fall in a heap, and it's because they were not in tune with their own needs at all prior to that moment of crisis or burnout or anxiety. So a big part of it is encouraging patients to recognize self-care. It really is actually a priority. You've
Mm.
got to look at how you're spending your time. You've got to look at what you're doing for yourself. A big one I see, especially patients that have insomnia, on the computer doing email or whatever, right up until 10 o'clock, 10:30, later at night, TV blaring. Like, it's so harsh for our nervous systems.
Mm.
So a lot of what I do is what I call what is called sleep hygiene, which nothing to do with cleanliness, but all about the rituals you put in place before you go to bed. Wearing blue light glasses, protecting your eyes from that light, which can mess with your sleep cycle.
Right.
Closing off the day and having some time just to really let your body understand that it's time for rest now. Just little things like that, even what you're eating, managing stress, regular mindfulness meditation, I think is absolutely essential for anyone dealing with overwhelm or
Mhm.
burnout. It just helps us become more resilient to stress.
Mhm.
But definitely it is a matter of where we can, taking things off our plates as well.
Mhm. Yeah, that's always the hard thing to do because we feel
Yeah,
like everything is important and
yeah,
everything is urgent when in
yeah,
fact seldom things are urgent.
absolutely.
you know
Yeah,
So I think that brings up a good point. And I've heard about the blue light glasses. I've never tried them or even seen them, but I hear that.
Oh, they're amazing. They work so well with people.
Really? Okay. And you
Yeah.
mentioned one thing there that caught my attention when you were talking about the sleep routine or sleep hygiene. You said what you eat before you go to bed. So can you help us understand, like, is something that we should not be eating before we go to bed? Or
Yeah, so some people are eating, I mean, some people have coffee like in the late afternoons, and insist that it's not affecting their sleep. And then sure enough, when they stop the coffee, it absolutely helps. I mean, chocolate as well. It's surprising what some people react to. I'm the same with chocolate. So not just the caffeine in chocolate, but there's a chemical called theobromine, and it's an excite and like an excite. I'm not going to be able to say it
excitatory?
now. That's it. Excitatory.
I can say that word.
Yeah, an excitatory, neurochemical.
Hmm.
And some people can have a little bit of chocolate and then their mind is just like running.
Huh.
And then any food, if you have it's good to have a little bit of carbohydrate before bed, but if you're having a really, really starchy meal, it might make you sleepy at first, but then you can wake up in the night when your blood sugars have dropped too low as well. So you want to have a good mix of protein, vegetables, and a little bit of starchy carbohydrate as well.
Okay. Okay. You just gave me my rice.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I was just saying, I'm not having carbs at night anymore.
A little bit's okay. I mean, the best carbs are things like your root vegetables, to be fair. But a
Okay.
little bit of rice is okay.
Okay. I can do some butternut squash, maybe something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Now, you also mentioned when you're talking about your sleep hygiene, meditation and mindfulness.
Hmm.
And for some people, those are very scary words.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
so how can we make meditation and mindfulness approachable to people?
Yeah. I think it's important to understand that once you've kind of tried it a few times, it's really enjoyable. It's really enjoyable to give yourself a break from your own mind. Like when you're so caught up in the constant cycle of thinking and worrying and obsessing, to just have, even at first, a little bit of distance from that
Hmm.
is incredibly soothing and relaxing. um, it can be a little bit challenging at first because often it's not that you're worsening the thinking and the rumination, but you become aware of it, and so it can feel worse.
Hmm.
Before, it's kind of just unconscious, but once you've kind of just broken through that initial stage and you're able to just to create a bit more space around your mental processes, and you're able to feel more embodied and more grounded and centered, um, it's people love doing it. It can become addictive in itself.
Okay. Now, is there, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I know people, and I was probably one of these people too when I first started. It's like 5 minutes is too long, 10 minutes is too long. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about my grocery list.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, it feels like that at first. And the answer with mindfulness is always just to observe and be curious about that, to not necessarily react. It's okay to feel restless, but
Mhm.
just notice that. Notice where it comes from. And like all sensations, it will arise and it will pass away. You don't have to react to every single urge that's happening in your mind.
Mhm.
The other thing is, you mentioned thinking about groceries. I think what puts a lot of people off meditation is they have this misconception that they're supposed to be able to stop thinking and silence their mind. And
Mhm.
then when they can't do that, they think they're doing it wrong, or they think it's not working, and they get really frustrated and more stressed.
Right. And they
But
give.
um, yeah, exactly, and then give up. I had someone say, I tried meditation once, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I said
That's
that before.
and that's like saying I tried to ride a bike once, but I fell
Right.
off, or I tried to diet for one day, but I didn't lose weight. Like it's a practice, and it needs practice because it's a skill that you develop as well.
Right.
But it is important to recognize you don't have to stop your thoughts, especially in the beginning. It's just being able to notice when you've become lost in thought and bring yourself back to whatever the object of meditation is, whether that's your breath or your body sensations. And just that practice of being able to notice when you're lost in thought and coming back is such a valuable life skill, you know, for focus, for concentration, for interacting with other people, and especially for anxiety, because so much of anxiety is you know, going down these rabbit holes of frightening thoughts.
Right.
So being able to break that is a really important skill.
Right, right. And I would say you brought up a great myth when you said, that you have to sort of not think about anything. You have to let go of all your thoughts. I think
Yeah,
that's a definite myth. The other
yeah,
thing that I've found is that people think I have to be sitting on the floor on a mat, Indian style,
yeah. Full lotus.
right,
Yeah,
full of, yeah. And that's not the case. Like you can be in your car in a parking lot.
yeah, definitely.
So,
Yeah. So there's informal and formal mindfulness practices. I
hmm,
think it is important to have a formal practice, which is, you know, the meditation. It doesn't necessarily have to be seated. And as you develop skills in that, like you say, you bring it into these informal moments, and you can make a practice of every time you sit in your car before you turn on the ignition, just take a few moments to just really be where you are and to breathe and to be aware of the present moment. You can choose a daily chore, you know, like washing the dishes. Dishes can be your mindfulness chore. And instead of just rushing through it, letting your mind wander, you can actually take a moment while you're washing the dishes to feel the sensations in your body, notice your breath, pay attention to what you're doing. You know, so rarely we actually do that with mundane things.
right,
You know, or hanging the washing out, enjoying the air, the sunshine, like just taking that time to be where you are, because often that overwhelm and stress, it's a mental phenomenon where you're thinking of everything on your to-do list, and then it feels like it's overwhelming, but
right.
you can only ever do one thing at a time. And if you get good at doing that one thing at a time with your full attention, you know, there's so much more flow to the day and so much more ease.
I never thought about that. You just like had a light bulb go off in my head because like we were saying, when we're thinking about women, there's so many things we're doing, so many hats we're playing, wearing, so many roles we're playing. And it's like, I don't have time to meditate,
Yeah,
but to say like, well, you're washing dishes, use that time.
yeah,
You
yeah,
are folding clothes, use that time. I
yeah,
never even thought about that. So it's like
yeah,
multi-purposing. So I love that.
yeah, definitely.
Now, I know like when we think of yoga, right? Because I love yoga. I'm missing it
Yeah,
right now because our gyms they just opened back, but it's a mess. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
know the different types of yoga, right? There's
Hmm.
like hatha and vinyasa and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to meditation and mindfulness, are there certain rituals or focus points that we should use for different situations
With yoga
with
or,
meditation?
oh, right, okay. Um, like when it comes to anxiety, like I say, it's that prevention that's more important. So having that daily mindfulness meditation practice, even if it's 10 minutes a day, plus
Mhm.
some of those informal practices throughout the day, is really important just to keep the nervous system healthy and on track, and to build those skills, because it's hard once you're in anxiety.
Mhm.
It is hard sometimes to pull yourself back. So the more you build those skills regularly, the better. But when it comes to, you know, a moment of anxiety, some of the best things is just at least noticing your breath. It can be very hard if your anxiety is extreme. You know, people say breathe deeply or breathe from your belly. I've
Mm.
been in a situation where it's literally not physically possible. Your nervous system is just so in fight or flight that it's impossible. But at least just being aware of the breath, or using something in your body as an anchor,
Mm.
whether that's a physical sensation, to like I mentioned before, just get you out of your head and into your body. Anything to do with your feet is really grounding. So a foot bath, stamping your feet, walking meditation, where you actually really just notice the sensations of your lifting your foot, moving your foot, placing your foot on the ground. Like anything like that is really, really grounding and good for anxiety in the moment as well.
Wow. Okay. So ladies, that's 3 places that we have named that we can get some meditation and mindfulness in. Dishes, folding clothes, and walking. No more
Walking,
excuses.
yeah.
No more excuses.
No. No, I mean, the ultimate goal of mindfulness is to be mindful in every moment, you know, not just doing your meditation and then going straight back into your stressed, busy mental state. You know,
Right.
it's ideally it's carried through into everything.
Right. Okay. I love that. Now I have to get back on my meditation regimen. I have been slipping. I'll be honest, I have been slipping.
Look, everyone does, and it's important to recognize that and not beat yourself up.
Right.
Like, one of the things that I think is frightening about meditation is it takes courage, because we have to sit with ourselves. We have to sit with those thoughts. We have to sit with the discomfort in our bodies. We have to stop and pay attention to what's really there, when our instinct throughout the day is to distract, to outrun, to ignore. And often we can become aware of emotions that have been kind of bubbling under the surface that we haven't been paying attention to. So it takes a lot of courage to meditate, and that slipping is a natural part of the process, sometimes, of resistance. And often when we're the most stressed and busy is when we start to slip.
Yes.
And it's because we start to get into that go mode, and it's kind of like a train. We're in that forward fast movement, and it feels kind of almost jarring or unpleasant to just try to slow that down and bring that momentum back. So yeah, it's totally normal that happens. However, the important thing is to recognize that and
Yes.
then, you know, get back on the cushion.
Yes. Yes. I had my first session yesterday, so
Great.
on my way. Awesome. So, Sharee, tell us a little bit about, your actual business and kind of what you're doing out there in Australia.
Yeah, so I have a online telehealth clinic. Before it was cool in COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
We're ahead of the curve.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I work with clients one-to-one from, well, I say all over the world, but really there's potential for all over the world, but mostly I see people in Australia, in the UK, in the US and Canada.
Okay.
So we do online consultations, naturopathic consultations. And then I also have an online program called the Calmer Mind course, and that is specifically around mindfulness. So some people tend to do both together. Some people just want the naturopathy. Some people just want the mindfulness. I think it's better to combine both. But yeah, that's pretty much. And then I teach yoga as well. And in my mindfulness,
Online?
sorry?
You teach yoga online?
I don't teach it like live online. I've got a lot of, a few free classes on YouTube, and then in my mindfulness course, because mindful movement is a really important part of mindfulness as well. So in my online course, I have yoga classes, particularly yin yoga, which is really good for mindfulness. I have that. Yeah, it's such a great segue to mindfulness.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, mine too. It's great.
Most people think it's boring, but I'm like, this is just what I need. Actually,
Yeah.
because some people might not know what we're talking about, can you just explain what yin yoga is?
Yeah, so if you think of the concept of yang and yin, right? So yang is identified with, say, masculine qualities, heat, movement, dynamism, strength, and yin is those properties of stillness, dark, coolness, receptivity, calm. Most of our exercise and even most yoga practices are very yang based, you know, that especially vinyasa and those kind of really dynamic heat building practices, which are really great, but it's good to balance it with yin. So yin is, most of the poses are done on the floor. It works on the fascia, or the connective tissue, which is actually where we store our tension. And to be stretched and released properly, fascia needs to be held in a position for at least 3 to 5 minutes. So the poses are these long holds, deep stretches on the floor, that really kind of loosen up everything in the body, because it's all one sheet of fascia. Even just working on one area, like the hips or the lower back, it can release everywhere. So it's very therapeutic, particularly for athletes or people that are really tight. But at the same time, I love it because you are still in these poses. You have to be mindful. You can't just let your mind wander everywhere. So much of it is about just being in touch with what's happening in the body, in the pose, with what's happening with the breath. Mm-hmm. And it's just a perfect complement, or even preparation to a more formal meditation practice.
Right. Yeah. I love it. And guys, don't let the 3 to 5 minute hold scare you. It's not bad. You're on the floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can use props. Yeah. I mean, it can be really relaxing. Right. At the same time, if you're really tight, it can be intense sensations. You don't ever want to go to the point where it's like, painful, but it can be intense. And that's, again, good practice for mindfulness, because you're noticing how you react to that. Can you be with it? Can you soften into it instead of resisting? So it's very, very useful.
Yeah. So any of my, if you sit in a desk chair all day, or any of my road warriors out there where you're always on the road, get in a yin class, because your hip flexors will thank you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and your back.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sharee, any last thoughts that you would want to leave with someone that may be struggling with anxiety, or looking to figure out how to bring meditation and mindfulness into their life to be a more centered, relaxed person?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is, I come across a lot of people that have given up hope when they're experiencing mental health problems, or tend to think that if they've received a formal diagnosis, or they've tried orthodox medicine and it hasn't really helped, they tend to think that they are kind of doomed for life, that they're never going to get better. But I do want to just give hope that it is possible to at least improve your symptoms, and in many cases get better if you do dig deep and really find those underlying causes and address it from that individual level. So I think that's important, to just give that hope. When it comes to mindfulness meditation, I think it's just realizing that it is probably one of the kindest things you could ever do for yourself, to have a regular meditation practice. And it is probably one of the most beneficial things you could ever do for yourself. It affects all aspects of your life when you have a regular meditation practice: how you interact with people, how you respond to stress, how you see and filter the world, how happy you feel. It affects everything. So it really is, I think, the biggest act of self-love you could possibly have for yourself.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. Amazing. I'm so glad you were here with us tonight.
Thank you. Me too.
I learned a lot. But before I let you go, we have a thing we do here on the show with every guest.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, it's called the Fab Four.
Yeah.
So I have to do that for you too.
Good. Don't want to miss out.
No. So are you ready for the Fab Four?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Ready.
Fab Four is just anything that comes to your mind, first thing that comes to your mind. Don't think too much about it.
Okay.
Just let it go. Okay. Here we go. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
To breathe underwater. So I could just, swim around, go scuba diving without the gear, look at all the beautiful fish.
Every time I ask this question, I'm telling you, I never, you think you know what people are going to say, and then To breathe underwater. Okay, I love it. I love
Well,
it.
I could say something like, bring world peace or
No,
something like
I
that.
love
But,
it. I love it. Breathe underwater.
I think of that as a real comic kind of superpower.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be?
Hmm. Maybe Tori Amos. I'm a huge fan of her music. I think she's really awesome. Um, I would love to have met Gandhi. I
Okay.
think he has just, inspired so many fantastic movements all around the world. Um, and the Buddha would have been amazing. Yeah,
Gotcha.
to be in that presence.
Gotcha. I love it. I love it. Okay. This one, I love this question. If you could choose a song to represent your life, sort of a theme song, what would it be?
A song I've been listening to before my meditation lately is "What a Wonderful World" by Louis Armstrong.
Really?
Yeah, like it's so.
I wonder.
It almost makes me cry every time I listen to it because it's I don't know. I think it just encapsulates that in a way, that mindfulness, that seeing the world without judgment, like appreciating each moment
Mm.
and being in touch with that beauty, um, that almost fleeting beauty that is our lives, and slowing down enough to appreciate that.
Mm. I love that. That just matches you perfectly. Like, I love that. I love it. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. All right. The last one, I cheat because it's actually three questions in one, but
Okay.
so just finish the following statements. I love.
Vegan ice cream.
Wait, did you say vegan ice cream?
Yeah, I'm not vegan, but I avoid dairy. The ice cream's really good.
All right. I dream about.
I dream about, gosh, um, I dream about doing more travel once these restrictions lift.
Where's the first place you're gonna head?
Oh, to Italy. My partner is from Italy. We've got a wedding to go to, and a nephew going to be born. So hopefully we
Oh
can get
wow.
there.
That's on my list too. Italy. Never been.
Yeah.
Australia's on my list too, but I don't think I'm gonna make it there.
It's a long flight.
All right, the last one. I am.
Um, a book junkie. I've got a real problem with ordering books on Kindle and not finishing them and then ordering more.
Any particular kind of books, like nonfiction, fiction, biographies?
Too much nonfiction, spirituality, health and wellness, the lot. Yeah.
I'm a cookbook junkie, so I feel you.
You can't have too many cookbooks.
I mean, I don't use them. They just kind of sit.
I'm sure it looks impressive when people come to dinner.
It makes me look like I do a lot of
Yeah, a pro.
cooking. Well, awesome. Thank you again, Sharee, for being here. If people want to stay connected with you and find you and, just kind of keep up with what's going on, where can they find you on social media?
um, Facebook is where I'm the most active and do a lot of live streams and videos. So it's Ashima Community is my handle, or you'll find it with Ashima Living. Um, yeah, otherwise my website Ashima Living, where I blog regularly.
Okay, awesome. And don't worry, guys. Ashima Living, I know you're like, how do you spell that? Don't worry. It's going to be in the show notes. It will be everywhere. You won't miss it. I got you. Don't worry. So thank you again, Sharee, for being here. Thank you guys out there for listening and staying with us. As always, I appreciate you. And if you've missed any of our previous episodes, be sure to head over to our website, Dr. Erika by Design, to catch up and see other great women like Sharee tell their stories. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter so you don't miss any of the details, any of the great upcoming events, and anything else. All right, that's all we have for you guys today. Thanks for joining, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.